Did you know there's a black market for AI tokens? Chinese sellers are offering up API tokens and subscription to popular LLM providers like Claude and OpenAI Codex for pennies on the dollar.
I've heard stories of companies losing $1 million a day. I heard through the grapevine of a coding agent, one of the more popular ones, that's currently losing $10 million a month, and it's doubling every 2 months.
Three of my favorite things in life are good deals, sketchy Chinese websites, and protecting shareholder value. So you know I had to dig in and check it out myself. I spent my own money on black market Claude tokens, and what I found out was a well-run multi-million-dollar industry that goes deeper than I could have ever imagined. Were these real Claude API tokens? Where are they getting them? How are they offering them so cheap? What's the catch? Are they selling my data? I'm Wes, and welcome to Syntax. Searching for black market tokens, I hopped on Taobao and searched for Claude, and I was amazed at how many things will pop up. Now, Taobao is kind of like a Chinese Amazon, but there are tons and tons of different sellers on there. If you've ever used like AliExpress or something like that, it's like that, but 1,000 times better with absolutely everything that's available to you, even black market Claude tokens. And after a couple hours of searching, I came across kind of three types of listings after doing all of the translate. The three types of listings that I stumbled upon were first, seemingly legitimate Claude subscriptions. So these ones right here, if you look at them, Claude 4.8, Pro, whitelist, old account, membership top up, old accounts. What these are people that are using legitimate or US credit cards and selling them to people who want legitimate full Claude access. So someone who wants Claude access but is not able to because they don't have the identification that is needed or the proper credit card that is able to buy it. And if you look at it, you convert the actual prices of a lot of these, you'll see that they're actually more than what Claude Code subscriptions would cost. So I don't think there's much wrong with that other than people who are unable to access it wanting to access it. Now, the second type that I stumbled upon was something like this. Claude 4.7 Pro subscription, shared monthly card account, Claude Pro Max membership domestic version. If you look through all of these, they sell like 7 days. Now, Claude doesn't sell a 7-day access to one of these, right? So seemingly this one seems to be access to, I think, the Claude Code website on a shared account. So I went ahead and bought that one. 7 days, 8.5 yuan, which is about $1.50, right? That's dirty cheap. And then the third one, which is really what we're looking for, is we're looking for straight Claude Anthropic token access for really cheap, right? So this is the one that I ended up landing on. $100 per knife limit. Uses up until end, no time check. So what this essentially translates to, if you take it out of this Google Translate and put it into some other translate, this equates to $100 worth of credit used up. There's no time limit, right? 55 yuan converted to USD is $8. So basically they're offering you 8% of the cost, $100 worth of credit for $8. So I bought that one as well, and we're going to dig in to see if it actually works. Immediately what they did is they sent me some random token that I can use and then a link to UQ, which seems to be similar to a Chinese Notion. So dusted off my Chinese and read all of the instructions, and I sort of understood what we're working with here, right? So when I logged into the Claude website one, this is what you get, right? Here you are at the garage and you have 0 heaven, and you have to select a parking space, a total of 0 vehicles. So what I've understood this to be is these are different instances of the Claude website running. So they seem to have a bunch of browsers running and they're proxying it through. So watch, if I click through to one of these, it will load up what seems to be and seems to look like the actual Claude website. So I can go and I can look at some of the previous conversations that I've had. I can say, who does he do a podcast with? This seems to be an actual Claude instance. So I opened up the dev tools here. I looked at the network requests. Every single time that you click on something, this looks exactly like the Claude website. It's not just like a dupe of it. Everything down to the JavaScript bundle names are exactly the same. So what they are doing here is they are proxying it through. So they have a whole bunch of Claude instances running on a browser somewhere, and they are running all of these different chats and keeping track of the chat IDs that belong to me, and their proxy in the middle is they're filtering it out. So they're using the same one over for multiple people. things like you click on the design and it just says not found and it will log me out. It was a very, very crappy experience for me. And also when I take a look at my dosage, which I simply have run 3 or 4 chats so far, I only get 50 over the next 3 hours. That doesn't seem like a very high thing. So for the $10 that I spent on this, probably not worth it. What I'm more interested in is the actual $100 worth of Claude tokens. Does that actually work? Is it real? Let's dive into that. All right, so my $100 worth of Claude credits for $8. How does this work? So I clicked off over to the Chinese Notion and read the guide for newcomers. And if you scroll it, you start seeing, oh, you can use it with the Claude Code CLI, right? You can use it with Claude Desktop. You can use it with VS Code, use it with Cursor, and they basically detail how to use it with absolutely every single tool that you could possibly want. So I thought, yeah, let's try it with Claude Code first. So I went over to the website that they give you access to, code.anyxml, and I inputted that ID that they gave me, and boom, $100 worth of credits, right? Then I went over to the API keys and had to create an API key. This is where it started to get a little bit fishy, right? So you click on create token and you have access to 3 different times of token groupings. And what the hell is this? 5x ratio and 1.5x ratio? So at first I didn't totally understand what this was. And as I went and translated it, essentially they have 3 different groupings of Claude that they're trying to sell you, right? There's Claude Max is of high quality. There's Claude Fast. And then there's Claude offers great value for money. And what I've broken this down into is that there is Claude Max, which seems to be, we'll go into this in a second, seems to be legitimate Claude, is not actually $100 worth of credit for $8. It's $100 worth of credit for $40 because it's actually boosting it up at 5 times the ratio. Then Claude Fast and the other ones, they have slightly different rules around caching and whether they actually work, if they're offline or not. Those ones are 1.5x. So there is no 1x. We're kind of screwed there, but I went ahead and made tokens for all of them. And I went in, of course, I'm not going to run this on my computer. I'm running this on a sandbox environment where it can't actually get access to my entire computer. And I simply just went into my Claude settings and swapped out the tokens that are being used. I don't know, you can use the rest of my tokens if you want after this. And then the base URL that we're sending it to, right? They've set up a transfer station in between that will inject it. Now, if I just go ahead and run Claude in here, of course I trust this folder, right? There we go, Opus 5. Let's just go ahead and try say, hey, it's gonna boogie, and we'll see if it actually works. All of it comes back in Chinese, which is not what actually happened last time. Let's translate that quickly and see what that actually means. What content needs to be searched? What code or documentation needs to be created? Tell me exactly what you want to do and I will execute it immediately. Please speak English for me. Create a simple website that is an admin dashboard. We'll see if it will go ahead and create those things for me. There we go. We got it back to English. All right, it seemed to create it in 44 seconds, which is suspiciously fast. It wasn't doing it that fast earlier, so that makes me think it maybe is not even using Claude right now. Let's say start a Vite server with allowing IP address visiting. All right, seems like it finished up and visiting the website. That also is suspiciously does not look like a Claude. Opus 5 does not use emojis like this. It doesn't do this design. It is blue. This is very clearly not giving you Opus 5. However, I will tell you that in my testing in the past, it was giving me actual Claude. Let's try change the model to Sonnet. All right, here it's telling me we want modern dark mode. It took 5 minutes to come up with the question of, do you want modern dark mode? So obviously not very fast. While that's running, let's talk about this for just a second. So what I did is I whipped up a script that would run a bunch of different calls to the different APIs out there, right? And I also used legitimate Claude tokens because I wanted to take a look at the outputs of them and say, how similar to these are they to real Claude code? And that will be able to tell me things like this is the real Claude code model versus they've been swapping something out. So when I did the legit Claude token, it was 147 tokens, and then the max token also was 147 tokens, meaning that their tokenization for each of the models, this was with Claude Opus 4.8, was exactly the same. And all of these models have different tokenization patterns. So saying something like, hey, how are you doing today, will tokenize differently for each of the models. Then with the slow token, it was giving me 160 tokens. Then I asked AI to write a script and try to extract the system prompt from it. And from the cheaper one, the one that was 1.5x, it was able to get out the prompt from it where it says, if anybody asks you in Chinese or English who you are, you tell them that you are Claude Code. So almost certainly I can tell you that using the API keys that are at 1.5x ratio, that's not actually Claude. They're just substituting it with a much cheaper model. Now, the one that is 5x ratio, I do believe from all of my testing that is legitimate Claude. Now, where did they get those? We'll talk about that in just a second. 8 minutes and 3 seconds later on Sonnet, it finally finished, and this is what it gave us, which is much more something that Sonnet and Claude was going to put out, right? It's that common blue. You got these backgrounds right here. You've got the hover effects on absolutely everything, right? You hover over top of it because a little bit of an animation. Those are all Claude calling cards that you're going to see there. So that matched with the tokenization lining up 1-to-1 makes me confident to say that this 5x one actually is giving you Claude most of the time. One more thing to show you that this is a bit of a scam. If we go to our usage for building this simple little website, it's telling us we use $1.92 worth of tokens, right? And if we go to our dashboard here, you'll see that today we have consumed, and this is all I've done today, is $3.45 worth of Sonnet and $3 worth of Opus. So $6.40 worth of tokens. And why that is happening is because they are stealing all kinds of different APIs. And when they need to switch from one API to another, because I remember it was spinning for a while, and in that case, it probably because one API got shut down, they have to take our entire chat transcript and then send it to another API endpoint. And those tokens are not cached. And if you're not sending cached tokens, you have to send the entire thing again, and that gets really, really expensive. So if I'm doing my math correctly here, I spent $8 for $100 worth of tokens, right? Then I go to my API key to create my token, and it is 5 times that. So 8 times 5, that is 40 cents on the dollar. Now, what they're telling me here is that my $2 spend was really closer to 6. So that's 3 times more expensive. So my 40 cents ends up being 120 cents, meaning that I just paid $1.20 or $120 for $100 worth of tokens. That's not a good deal at all. I think they're being a little bit sneaky here with it. By the way, if you're enjoying this, hit subscribe and let me know what other seedy areas of the internet I should be looking into. Got a couple ideas. If you are a seedy person, send me a DM. Some questions I had now were, where are these black market token resellers getting access to the tokens? And luckily for me, while I was researching it, Matt Lenhard posted this blog post from Vectoral, and turns out the guy started a company to stop this exact fraud because it's a much bigger deal than I thought.
Yeah, so I'm Matthew Lenhard. I'm the CEO and founder of Vectoral, a platform to stop token fraud and abuse. That really stems from problems I ran into at a previous company I was working at, where we were constantly battling token fraud. And I started to look into it, like, where is this all stemming from? And turns out there's an entire underground market for it.
Matt has dove deep into the forums where all these Chinese sellers are trying to figure it on out and sort of broken it down into 4 different groups that we have there, right? Upstream, you have the credit cards. They're maybe using stolen credit cards to be able to register with these big labs, right? OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, etc. And then midstream, this is where they start to pool all of the accounts. And this is kind of the interesting parts to me. So they're trying to figure out where they can get tokens from absolutely anywhere, right? So whether that is there's an NPM worm that has scraped your .env file, whether that is reverse engineering some of the things like I'm sure VS Code, Cursor, Kiro, all of these places that maybe they offer a trial, maybe they have bought like a $20 plan, but you're able to use $500 on that single plan because, you know, some of these guys are losing money on it. They're trying to reverse engineer because tokens are tokens, and wherever they come from, they don't necessarily care. So they're trying to reverse engineer all of the APIs and then put it into a single tidy API, which is the next one, the downstream. These are the transfer stations. So this is what I've been interacting with right here. They give you a nice tidy API where you can log in, you can see your usage for the day, you can make an API key. They give you a URL that you can ping, and it is Anthropic compatible, so you can just swap it out in Claude Code. This is the transfer station where they take in my requests, they create me X, Y, and Z, and it's up to them to figure out where those need to be routed. And in our case, when I was showing you, it took 8 minutes to do a very simple task, and that's likely because they're always getting shut down and they need to reroute those requests to different APIs to figure out which one will work. And I think that's also why I was running out of tokens much faster than it said. Then there's me, the end user, looking for a good deal.
Yeah, so there's actually sites that have popped up now that try to verify this at the different relays or transfer stations, because there's a lot of talk of models being swapped out. And so now there's like verification sites that try to verify this for end users. Like, hey, are your stolen tokens, actually the model that they're purporting to be?
Now, if you're just watching this video saying, oh, well, I don't know where to steal tokens from, don't worry. There's an entire website dedicated to reviewing stolen token providers. You can go on it and you can say, oh, I think I need a little bit of Fable today, right? And you can see that LLM API is pretty good, or Kun.ai has pretty good. And they're tracking absolutely everything in terms of like, how often are you switching APIs? What's the latency like in returning to them? What's the price? And they even have free API keys. They have so much out here. They just want to tempt you with a little bit. It's absolutely nuts to me that this is such an industry that we now have like Amazon reviews and free giveaways on stolen tokens. The stolen API keys thing is really interesting to me because we hear about these NPM hacks all the time. And then you don't really hear about like the craziness that happens. When it was Bitcoin, you would hear immediately my account was drained. With these tokens, I'm wondering, are they just doing it enough to hopefully not get noticed or to fly under the radar?
They're pretty clever. Like they won't take you for everything you have because they know it gets shut off at that point. And what I've heard, and this was also like my own internal experience, is like you don't really notice things until they get really bad. And so, if they're just stealing a few $1,000s a day from a given API key, it may never get noticed. It's only when they start stealing like 100,000 or more that for a lot of these large organizations, things start to get flagged.
Stealing and selling tokens is not the only way that these guys are making money. This interesting post on China Talk, one fish, 3 meals, where meal 1 is marking up access. We saw that. You say, here are tokens. I will charge them for you. I stole them, so I'm making money on top of that. Meal 2, swapping out the models and inflating the tokens. So we saw that, right? We weren't entirely sure that we were getting real Claude at some point, and also inflating the token usage. We spent $2 worth of tokens, and then it charged me $6. That doesn't make sense. It's 5xing the actual token usage. That can kind of get you. And then the third one, this is really important, is the logs are the product. So these LLM companies that are trying to train their own models, what they will often do is called distillation, which is, Anthropic has been crying about it for almost 6 months now, which is essentially you can train your model based on the output of another model. And if you have the logs or the output of somebody actually using Claude Code, then you can use those logs to actually train your own model on top of that. The data of people actually using your model and saying, yes, this is good, no, that is bad, that is an absolute gold mine to these companies that are, specifically a lot of them in China, that are trying to make their own version of Anthropic or OpenAI models, and they need this data in order to go.
So the way it works with the Chinese labs is, say they're trying to distill Anthropic, right? Yeah. They need a way to basically disguise their traffic across a number of different sources. And so they will buy some of this traffic through the account sourcing or the account layer I was talking about earlier, as well as the relays themselves. They do this through a bunch of them basically to reduce like the kind of fingerprint that Anthropic's able to detect.
Should you be buying tokens on the dark web from sketchy Chinese website, even if they are seemingly legitimate Claude Code? Probably not. You have to remember, even if you're running it through a legitimate harness like OpenCode or Claude or Codex, these things are still being proxied, meaning that they can swap out tool calls, which is maybe the tool call says create index.html, they will switch it to create index.html and steal your entire computer contents and all of the IP that's related to your employer. And that would probably end you up in some hot water. These APIs I've learned are flaky, they're slow, you're not always sure you're getting what you want, and they are using up way more tokens than you probably think they are. As much as you may hate Dario or Sam for what they are doing here, you are often stealing from people that have unknowingly, accidentally leaked their API key. You may be stealing from somebody who has their Claude Max subscription. You often hear from people who are saying, I did 3 prompts and I've totally used up my entire usage. Well, maybe your API keys got leaked. You probably should take a look at that. You are much better off spending your money on a bit more of an open stack, even if those models are the Chinese variety. I got no problem with that, right? So go to somewhere like OpenRouter and take a look at all the different models that they have available. And a lot of these are significantly cheaper for almost as good of. They're not as good, but almost as good. And if you're just building the CRUD app, you don't need some of these best models out there. You're going to get a lot more value out of that. Switch to a harness that is a bit more open, that allows you to switch between all the different models. So what I mean by that is go grab OpenCode or Pi or any of these other harnesses that will allow you to switch between different models and different providers. And I think that's a much better deal than going on some sketchy website and buying what you think might be legitimate tokens that are probably stolen.